sharing your reporting and your feelings about this tonight. Really appreciate it. We're joined in our discussion now by John Sandweg. He's the former acting director of ICE under President Obama. Also with us, Professor Victoria DeFrancesco Soto of the LBJ School of Public Affairs at the University of Texas, who is an MSNBC contributor. And John, could you tell us what the previous policy was in cases of these infant babies that the new administration is now planning to create new facilities for?
Yeah, Lawrence, it certainly wasn't take them away from their mothers. I mean, this is shocking to me. Border Patrol and ICE are proud law enforcement agencies that are good at getting bad guys. That's what the agents signed up for, and this president now has them ripping babies out of mothers' arms. That doesn't make any sense to me. But our policy was keep families together. You keep families together at almost all costs, because once you separate those families, you run a serious risk because they never see each other again.
Tell us about that. Tell us about what is the likelihood of them seeing each other again, and what happens, what are the stories in which they end up not seeing each other again?
Well, here's the fundamental problem. When the children are separated from their parents, they're treated as unaccompanied minors. They go on a separate legal track than do the parents. The parents can be deported very quickly. Their cases are prioritized, they're detained, and they move through the system fast. Their children, on the other hand, are treated as non-detained and treated on the non-detained docket, which basically means they're not viewed as a priority. Their cases can drag on for months. So now you have the parent back in Honduras or Guatemala, and the child could be in a child care facility somewhere in the United States, thousands of miles from the border. It gets very hard for the federal government to coordinate and track the location of both people. Frankly, nobody's funded. Nobody's really had to do this before. It's not something that the agencies are trained to do or equipped to do. And the scary part is it leads to long-term separation that can extend for years in so many of these cases.
There's one estimate that the Trump administration has probably lost track of 6,000 unaccompanied migrant children. Do you think that's possible?
It is possible. Now, in those instances, I think a lot of those kids maybe are not in the worst situation. But I think what it highlights is how bad the federal government is at this job. And that's just tracking the minors who are inside the United States. Now you have to figure out a way to do something never done before, which is track the location of the parents who, in most instances, have been sent back to Central America. Look, you can tell by the videos and the images you're showing and the scrambling that's going on in the federal government, they weren't prepared to implement this policy. If they weren't even ready to build the detention facilities for the children, I don't think we can expect that they've put together the logistics necessary to track the movements of the parents so that they can later reunite them with the kids. I know they handed out a brochure today, but I would suggest that that's woefully insufficient, and based on my experience, I really am worried that we're going to be hearing about this story in months and years to come because these kids are not with their parents.
And Victoria, we now know, because of the AP's reporting tonight, that what the administration is calling tender age shelters. They have to come up with a euphemism. They have to come up. I'd like to know how long the meeting was where they came up with this phrase, tender age shelters, to describe the jailing of babies. And we don't know where those babies are. They're somewhere in South Texas, somewhere around here. We don't know where they are crying tonight, but it is somewhere near here. And this is a whole new stage of this story.
It is. And then if we think about when are these babies going to be reunited with their parents? These babies cannot fend for themselves, and their parents may end up back in Honduras and El Salvador. And these folks who are back there, they don't speak English. The minimum wage in El Salvador is $300 a month. If we have trouble navigating the bureaucracy here in the United States, the immigration bureaucracy, how is a mother going to navigate the bureaucracy from afar in trying to reunite with her infant child? So by separating out these children of all ages, but especially the babies, this is putting us on a track to where we are separating out people for permanent, for life.
John Sandweg, as an expert in this field, what do you suggest that we be looking for in the way we cover it now, given all the information we have as of tonight, including these 3 secret facilities we've just learned about for the babies?
Well, I think the key is going to be the weeks and months to come. Let's hope that this policy ends quickly. Generally speaking, border activity is cyclical in nature. We are just winding down what is, I would call, the high season for our border activity, meaning it's the spring and early summer months where we see the highest level of traffic. I would expect and I hope that that traffic dissipates in the coming weeks and months. But what I think the most important thing to cover long term is how is the federal government doing at reuniting these families? Are they making any effort at doing that? Have they put in place efficient systems to work this? I worry that not only is this policy cruel and, in my opinion, is not border security. I'm for a secure border, but this is not border security. But it's also not well thought out, and I worry that we're going to feel we're going to have kids stuck in this country for years to come with their parents somewhere else.
John Sandweg and Victoria DeFrancesco Soto, thank you both for joining us, and I really appreciate it. Chris Hayes is going to join us when